When it comes to suicide, it's something that a lot of us just don't understand. We can't really comprehend suicide as being the only option to a tough situation.
But the truth is, many people take that route every single day, and families are left mourning the loss of their loved one. And just recently, 27-year-old Matthew Warren was found dead in his home from an apparent suicide. Matthew was the son of Pastor Rick Warren, who also wrote The Purpose-Driven Life. His family says Matthew struggled with mental illness from the day he was born. And that's just one instance. Unfortunately, so many other families also have their own stories to tell. As a matter of fact, studies show nearly 30,000 Americans die each year from suicide. An average of one person dies by suicide every 16 minutes. 1 in 65,000 children ages 10 to 14 commit suicide each year. And get this, suicide rates in the United States are highest in the spring. Another fact, suicide can be prevented through education and public awareness. And there's an upcoming event here on Delmarva to do just that. So joining us today to tell us more are Dave Miller, who is the MC of the 6th Annual Suicide Prevention Comedy Tour, and Kelly Green, who is a suicide prevention advocate. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
Kelly, I know this is tough, but would you share your story with us?
Yeah. Almost 15 years ago now, my life was instantly changed in a moment. My son at the time was 12 and a half years old, and he took his own life. And it was the first time I even became aware that children even thought about suicide, let alone would act.
And this is him?
Yeah.
Darren?
Darren.
Yeah, with his little sister and his dad. And
Okay.
you know, he was a sweet kid, really bright, really energetic. He was involved in sports and Boy Scouts and church and all those great things. Really, really neat young man.
Yeah.
We had some things that happened within the family that are those kind of tragic family things. And as a family, we did all the right things. We did the counseling and we went and, you know, did all those kind of things. But the burden was still just a little too much for him to carry.
And you didn't see any signs?
No. He is one of those that there weren't really any signs. And even looking back, I mean, I've dug, turned over every single piece of hay looking for the needle, and you know, none of that. And there is a statistic that the majority of the people who die of suicide will exhibit some sort of warning sign. But that's about 60%. So there's still about 40% of the people who die of suicide that do not exhibit warning signs. So that's a pretty bad thing.
This sounds like a silly question to ask, but there's really a good reason for it. Why is it so important to raise awareness of suicide?
Well, because silence kills. Basically, you know, if we can break the silence and increase awareness, awareness usually brings money for research, and people can learn how to get help, because really suicide should be 100% preventable.
Yeah.
It should be totally 100% preventable. And much like breast cancer used to not be spoken of because it was private and all that kind of thing, and now it's pink everywhere and, you know, all the wonderful things, but that awareness of people beginning to speak about it brought money, brought research, lives have been saved, and it's the same kind of thing that's why I boldly speak. And I also do training and such with you know, teachers and students on how to get help for themselves. Because a lot of times kids have no idea who to call or what to do if they feel that they or a friend needs help. So we've done that piece of it too.
Dave, why are you so passionate about suicide awareness?
Well, I think everybody's been touched by it in some way. I've had a lot of friends that I know. You know, I think everybody has lost somebody to suicide. And Kelly and I got hooked up. I was invited to attend a board meeting. And it was a fundraising meeting, and I kind of half jokingly said, why don't we have a comedy show? And she said, I think that's a great idea, why don't you run it? So never volunteer for anything. And the next thing you know, 6 years later, you know, Kelly's one of my dearest, she's probably one of the most courageous women I've ever met in my life, and you know, her passion is contagious. So we both got thrown together at that time, and started doing this comedy fundraiser, and it's, you know, you need to say it out loud, and everybody's afraid to say suicide or talk about it. There's a certain amount of shame that's involved, and you know, just I guess like your piece before, alcoholism, you know, people don't want to admit that it touches them, but you know, what we're saying is say it out loud, bring awareness. You know, her sense of humor to cope with this was intriguing to me. Like, you know, some of our darkest times, you know, humor, you know, carries us through, and it's a healing process.
So is that the point of the tour? Is that what makes it more acceptable?
It's kind of a bizarre combination, suicide and comedy. But
suicide prevention.
suicide prevention. She always corrects me. We're not trying to encourage suicide,
Right,
of
and you're
course,
not
but-
making fun of it.
No,
Yeah.
no. We take the whole thing of prevention very seriously, but we
Right.
don't take ourselves so seriously. And
Yeah.
the comedy lessens the blow of the word, even suicide, you know? And so people can come to that where they may not go to some educational meeting, but boy, the message gets out there.
Everybody likes to laugh.
So suicide, not a laughing matter, but you guys are laughing to get through.
Right, and we've
Right.
had some great comics. Rich Voss from Last Comic Standing, Jim Florentine, Alonzo Bowden, who won Last Comic Standing, and Bonnie McFarlane, who's been on HBO, David Letterman, Comedy Central, just had directed and produced a movie recently called Women Aren't Funny. So she's our headliner this year. We've got 4 other great comics, so it's going to be...
It's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
It's a
All
great
right,
time.
let's
So
get to the
tell us about it.
details.
Well, it's $20 in advance, and all the proceeds from this event will be going to children's charities and suicide prevention. And we've partnered this year with the Parrot Head Club in Ocean City, so they're helping out. And there'll be silent auction and 50/50s and all that kind of thing. But there will be information and awareness throughout the evening as well.
And we were just showing some
Yeah.
video of Lowercase Blues from when they were on Delmarva Life, because they are actually
They
gonna
are
be there.
opening for us. They're setting the tone for the night.
Yeah.
And this is the second time they're doing this for us, and they're a great band. And
Blues.
and yeah,
Good
and
stuff.
Right.
Billy Todd, who was with Lower Class Citizens, who's a guitar player, is also going to
be there as
guest
well.
with us that night. So it'll be a great night.
It's going to be a great night. Here's what you need to know to be able to attend the event. It's going to be Thursday the 18th at 7 at Secrets in Ocean City. Tickets in advance at $20, $25 at the door. If you'd like to know more, there's the number, 410-352-2020. Dave, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
this
for having
afternoon.
us.
And if you missed any of that information, we'll put it on our website, delmarvalife.com. Just click on the show tab now, located on the left side of the homepage. Well, still to come on Delmarva Life, one mother's effort to make sure her daughter, who has Down syndrome, doesn't feel left out. The inspirational story of how she sprung into action to help special needs kids.
Delmarva Life. We'll be right back.